Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pacers Daily. I am your host, Hery Acosta. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about how the Pacers offense can kind of, flow without Tyrese Halliburton. Now, it's all going to start with Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin. Now, most of your game's going to run through your guard like usual. But obviously, Nembhard isn't that flashy passer that Halliburton is. Now, Nembhard has been known to get a good number of assists being next to Halliburton. But now the offense is going to run through him. A lot of the offense is also going to run through Siakam just because that is going to be your star player. And most of the paint is going to be ran by him and Jackson. Jackson will obviously is more of a traditional center, so he will stick in the paint most of the time. He will play a pick and roll game that is going to be beneficial this year. And then Nesmith, Nesmith's going to be in the corner. He's a decent mid-range shooter as well. So there's some stuff that the Pacers are going to have to kind of figure out how to run this offense, and especially with Mathurin, knowing that he's going to have to take more shots than usual and putting up more, close to 20 points a game. So that is probably the key piece that the Pacers are going to want on the offense. Now, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a lot different. It's going to look a lot different without the leadership and just the flashiness of Halliburton and just how he can get going in games where he can just not miss from three or drive to the paint, draw fouls. So obviously the Pacers are going to be missing that. But I know that Carlisle's going to play with his rotations and just kind of see, so this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do that. This player's going to do this. This player's going to do that. This player's going to play here. And so we have the bench as usual, the way it's set up. Didn't really lose anyone from the bench other than Thomas Bryant. Obviously, the only big players that we don't have this year, Turner's gone and Halliburton's out for the season. So trying to just kind of adjust without that. And then transitioning over to the defense. I actually think the defense is going to look pretty good this year. Now, we are going to be missing some shot blocking, but Isaiah Jackson is a really good shot blocker, so is Jay Huff. And so we're going to have some shot blocking. We're going to have some rebounding outside from the center position and outside the center position. And we just have very good perimeter defense. If we're not talking about Nembhard, we're talking about Nesmith. If we're not talking about Nesmith, we're talking about Shepard. If we're not talking about Shepard, heck, we're talking about Johnny Furphy. This team has some all-around good defenders. McConnell's a good defender. Mathurin has his in and outs as a defender. Siakam's a good defender. This team realistically can be one of the best defensive teams in the league. Now, is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. There's still going to be some stuff to tweak. But Carlisle knows how to utilize his rotations. There's obviously been times where you're kind of watching a Pacers game and Carlisle puts in some crazy lineup and you're just like, yeah, that's probably not what I would use, but trust that. Trust Rick. He's been in the NBA forever. He's won a championship. He's been in the finals a few times. So he's definitely a coach that I trust. That I'm glad he's in Indy. I'm glad he's where he belongs. Obviously, he had this stint way early in his career. But just whatever he decides to do, we have the right keys. We have the players that we need to have some good defensive schemes. Playing some good zone defense would be very good. And obviously, there's some teams you can match up man-to-man, especially if you want Nembhard and Nesmith on your best players. Mathurin can guard pretty good players as well, and obviously have players like Siakam and Jackson guarding the low post, and Jackson's going to be very good when it comes to that. And then the Pacers have been running on contract extensions, mostly nothing too crazy. Besides Hallie and Siakam's big extensions, we have Nembhard on a pretty nice contract. We still have Mathurin on his rookie deal. We have McConnell on a pretty nice contract. Obi Toppin's on a good contract. And now Isaiah Jackson's on a really good contract. The Pacers are playing well with their money, and no one on the team outside of Halliburton and Siakam is really making a crazy amount of money next season. And I don't know if the Pacers thought they would be messing all up by offering Turner a crazy extension, but just the way they played it, I think it was pretty smart. We have a lot of money to play with next offseason, so I'm hoping that can mean another star in Indiana. Obviously, Halliburton will be back by that season, and just being able to partner him and Siakam up with that third piece. Unless Mathurin becomes that star, Nembhard becomes that star, and Neesmith becomes that star, very many players on this team are capable of being all-stars, are capable of being big-name guys on the roster. So we're going to have to keep looking for that. Now, obviously, we got 2 months until the season starts. A lot can happen in those 2 months. So I'm hoping we can figure all that out and just kind of see what players are going to be eligible, because obviously Mathurin's going to be eligible for a good extension. And right now he's asking for $20 to $30 million. And I've seen a lot of different articles talking about whether that's a kind of you're balling out for the future, or you're paying for potential. That's what it was, paying for potential. And if he has a great season, then you're paying for skill. Now, if he has a good season and there's still a lot to be done, then you're paying for both potential and for skill, because he has skill, but he has more potential. So that is definitely an interesting one. And just kind of going to my last point, I still think that the Pacers could have a great season. I know I've mentioned it multiple times before, and I probably sound like a broken record, but you cannot count the Pacers out. I mean, this team showed that they belong in the playoffs, that they belong in the finals. I mean, I think it would have been different if Halliburton, let's say he did get injured. But it would have been different if he didn't get injured in the game, like in the first quarter. Like, if he was injured before the game started, I still think the Pacers would have won. Just because I think what happened is that their heads weren't fully in it after halftime, maybe after they spoke with Halliburton and saw that it looked bad, and maybe all their heads were out. I know Obi Toppin said his head wasn't in it after halftime, and so I mean a lot of what just happened in Game 7. It wasn't the fact that the Thunder were playing great. It was the fact that the Pacers weren't playing good. Pacers were defending the Thunder pretty well. It was just the turnover disparity was insane. It was kind of like Game 1, but we won Game 1. But we also had a fully healthy team in Game 1. But it was just one of those things. But obviously, enough about the finals. Whatever happened. But just saying, the Pacers could still be a top 5 team. Now the East is very open, especially with Boston not probably being that much of a contender. On the other hand, I can tell why people are counting them out. Their team is not looking as good as they did the last 2 years. But the Pacers still have the same foundation. They're just missing a key player. And we've seen many teams play well without star players. We've seen multiple instances where one player goes down, another player steps up. I mean, what is the biggest example of that? And it's not even in the NBA, it's in the NFL. Back in the early 2000s, who was the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots? It was Drew Bledsoe. Now, Drew Bledsoe was a former number 1 pick, former Pro Bowler, a very good quarterback, gets injured. And next thing you know, here's Tom Brady. Won 6 Super Bowls with the Patriots, obviously total of 7, won one with the Bucks. But it's just, there's instances where a player who's not deemed a star can fill in as a star and just end up having a wonderful career because of an injury. So that's definitely something to think about. But as always, I'm your host, Hery Acosta. This is Pacers Daily. Boom, baby. Go Sirs.